Looking for magic cards? At flipsidegaming.com you can now use the promo code LVD to get a 10% discount on orders over $10 while supporting the channel at the same time. Hello and welcome to another episode of Friendly Friday, a weekly series where we take a look at budget-friendly standard or modern decks, and this week we're taking a look at a red-white elemental burn in modern, an aggressive deck with some tribal synergies. So let's dive right into it here, starting out with our 1-drops, where we have 2 copies of Assault Strobe, 1 mana sorcery that can give one of our creatures double strike until end of turn, and one of the characteristics of elementals is that they typically have high power and low toughness, so being able to give one of those high power creatures double strike means a lot of extra damage. Next up we have 4 copies of Flamekin Harbinger, 1 mana for a 1/1 elemental. When she enters the battlefield we get to search our library for an elemental card and then put it on top of our library, so this can help us search up our different combos or just make sure that we curve out as nicely as possible. Next up we have 4 copies of Lightning Bolt, because we are a burn deck after all, and of course we're going to play 4 Lightning Bolts. Then we also have a 1-off copy of Thud, which is a nice addition from M19. So this is essentially a fling at sorcery speed for just 1 mana, so as an additional cost we have to sacrifice a creature, and then Thud deals damage equal to the sacrificed creature's power to any target. And as we've explained, our elementals do tend to have high power, so Thud can be a nice finisher. And next up we have a spicy copy of Mutagenic Growth, which is a Phyrexian mana spell, so either costs 1 green mana or 2 life, but since we don't have any green sources in our deck, we're always going to pay the 2 life to give target creature +2/+2 until end of turn at instant speed. So this is a nice pump spell to maybe push through the last points of damage, but we can also use it to save one of our creatures from a burn spell. Let's say our opponent points a Lightning Bolt at a 2 toughness creature we control, then we can Mutagenic Growth to save our creature, which can be very valuable, especially if the opponent doesn't expect it. Then we also have a copy of a Generator Servant, a 2 mana 2/1 elemental that we can tap and sacrifice to add a double colorless to our mana pool, and we can only spend this to cast creature spells, but the creature will gain haste until end of turn. So the theory behind Generator Servant is that it makes for a nice tutor target for Flamekin Harbinger. So let's say we have one of our powerful 4 mana elementals in our hand, then on turn 1 we can play the Harbinger, search up Generator Servant, play it on turn 2, and then on turn 3 we can sack the Servant to play out our 4 mana elemental and give it haste, and that's gonna add up for a lot of extra damage, as you'll see in just a second. Then we also have 4 copies of Kiln Fiend, a 2 mana 1/2 elemental, and whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, Kiln Fiend gets +3/+0 until end of turn, and since we are a burn deck with quite a few instants and sorceries, Kiln Fiend's gonna fit in great, and of course it is an elemental, which is important since we need a critical mass of elementals to make the deck function. Then we get to some more of our burn spells, where we have 4 copies of Boros Charm, a red and a white, to deal 4 damage to an opponent, make our permanents indestructible until end of turn, or give target creature double strike until end of turn. And in this deck, giving a creature double strike at instant speed is definitely quite valuable. Imagine having a Kiln Fiend and already having cast another instant or sorcery, then giving Kiln Fiend double strike is probably more valuable than dealing 4 damage to the opponent if the coast is clear. And then, of course, the classic mode is just to deal 4 damage to the opponent and use Boros Charm as a burn spell. And then we also have 4 copies of Lightning Helix, a red and white, to deal 3 damage to any target and gain 3 life, so another great burn spell. And these 2 burn spells are the main reason why we're playing white. And of course we do get to pick up some powerful sideboard cards as well if we're playing white. Next up we have 4 copies of Incandescent Soulstoke, 3 mana for a 2/2 elemental that gives other elementals we control +1/+1, so it's a nice lord effect. And it doesn't stop there, since for 2 mana we can tap the Soulstoke to put an elemental creature from our hand into play, and that creature gains haste until end of turn, but we do have to sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. But that does make for some very powerful combos in our deck, since we are playing cards like Nova Chaser, which we will get to in a second, and giving Nova Chaser haste until end of turn is a pretty nice ability. Then we have 4 copies of Ball Lightning, triple red for a 6/1 elemental with trample and haste that we have to sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. So one of the drawbacks of Ball Lightning is if our opponent has a removal spell, they get to kill the Ball Lightning before taking any damage. But there's definitely a lot of upsides to Ball Lightning as well, especially in this deck. For example, we could cast Assault Strobe on Ball Lightning before attacking with it, if we have enough mana to be attacking with a 6-power creature that has trample and double strike, which can add up to a lot of extra damage. If we have Incandescent Soulstoke in play, we give the Ball Lightning an additional point of power and toughness, which is nice, and we can also use the Soulstoke for 2 mana to put the Ball Lightning in play. And of course the drawback of the Soulstoke is the same one as the Ball Lightning itself, so that doesn't really matter too much. much, and then we have 1 extra mana to maybe be able to cast the Assault Strobe, or maybe even a Boros Charm to give the Ball Lightning a double strike at instant speed. So there's lots of neat synergies there, and of course the dream is to be able to attack with Ball Lightning, the opponent not having any blockers, and then second main phase cast Thud, sacrificing Ball Lightning to deal 6 more damage to the opponent. And then last but not least, we have 4 copies of Nova Chaser, 4 mana for a 10/2 elemental with trample that champions an elemental, which is a drawback. So when the Nova Chaser enters the battlefield, we have to sacrifice it unless we exile another elemental we control, and then when the Nova Chaser leaves the battlefield, we get to return the exiled elemental to the battlefield. So the best case scenario is that we have a Flamekin Harbinger in play, since we can just champion the Harbinger, which is nice, since then if the Nova Chaser dies, the Harbinger returns to the battlefield, and we get to search up another Nova Chaser if we want to. And of course Nova Chaser combines very nicely with Incandescent Soulstoke, since for 2 mana we can put the Nova Chaser in play, we can just champion the Soulstoke if we don't have any other elementals in play, and then attack for 10 points of trample and haste, and then at the end of turn the Soulstoke will return to the battlefield. And there are some other neat synergies, of course, the same ones that we had with Ball Lightning, being able to give Nova Chaser double strike, or sacrificing it to a Thud, are all pretty nice. And Nova Chaser is also the main reason why we have the one of Generator Servant, since we can have the curve of Harbinger into Generator Servant into Nova Chaser with haste, which is very nice. And then going over the mana base real quick, we have 4 copies of Arid Mesa, which is a nice red and white fetch land, but we're mostly going to fetch up either Sacred Foundry or Mountains. Then we have 3 copies of Clifftop Retreat, enters battlefield untapped if we control a mountain or a plains. 4 copies of Inspiring Vantage, enters untapped if it's one of our first 3 lands. Then 9 basic mountains. Don't want to be playing any basic plains in this deck because of Ball Lightning. And then 3 copies of Sacred Foundry, which we can search up with our fetch land as both a mountain and a plains, which we can pay 2 life for to make it enter the battlefield untapped. Then going over the sideboard, we have 2 copies of Path to Exile as a nice removal spell, being able to exile a creature. Then we have 2 copies of Alpine Moon, another addition from M19 to fight Tron decks and Valakut decks. Then we have 2 copies of Rest in Peace against graveyard decks, a random Hellspark Elemental which we can bring in against the more grindy control decks, where we can get additional value from the Unearth on the Hellspark Elemental. We have 2 copies of Stony Silence against artifact decks, 2 copies of Wear Tear against artifacts and enchantments, a one of Fulminator Mage, which is an elemental we can sacrifice to destroy target non-basic land, so it's a nice tutor target for Flamekin Harbinger in specific matchups. Then we also have a one-off copy of Sulfur Elemental, which we can bring in against Lingering Souls decks as a 3-mana 3/2 creature with Flash and Split Second that gives the white creatures +1/-1, so all 1 toughness white creatures will die on the spot. And then we also have a Timely Reinforcements against opposing burn decks as a way to gain some life and maybe put some tokens into play. And then an Ingot Chewer, which we can also tutor up with the Flamekin Harbinger as a 5-mana 3/3 that when it enters the battlefield we can destroy target artifact, but it also has Evoke for a single red, so that's a 1-mana way to deal with an artifact, which is quite nice. So that's the deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Alright, we're on the draw with an okay burn hand, so we'll keep. Turn 1 Bolt, turn 2 Boros Charm, turn 3 Ball Lightning. That's 13 damage all by itself. And then we can also growth for 2 more. Turn 1 Serum Vision, so might be up against the control deck of some variety. And those matchups can definitely be rough, since opponent can just take out our Ball Lightnings before they get to attack. Guess we'll play the Arid Mesa here. Say go. Another island into Sleight of Hand. Alright, so it could be a combo deck instead. Typically don't see Sleight of Hand in control decks. So if this is Storm, it's a little suspicious that they haven't played a red source yet, so we might want to keep Bolt to answer one of the mana creatures. I guess I can wait on the Bolt and then see what they do next turn. Since if we are up against Storm, we definitely want to keep the Bolt to answer a mana creature. Instead we picked up Kiln Fiend, so alright, guess we're playing Kiln Fiend then. And it also rewards us for having kept Lightning Bolt. So next turn we could be dealing quite a bit of damage, as we see an opt end of turn, since we can Bolt, Mutagenic Growth, so that's +6 power, +8 power, and then give Double Strike, which is another 3. So yeah, we could just kill our opponent next turn, as we see Spiral Bluff Canal. So yeah, opponent looks to be Storm. And there's Baral. I doubt our opponent's gonna block our Kiln Fiend, but we might even be able to kill the Baral, so let's do some quick math here. So if we Lightning Bolt Baral, Kiln Fiend 4 power, Mutagenic Growth, that's +5. So Kiln Fiend to 9 power, and then Boros Charm double strike, Kiln Fiend 12 power, so yeah, we can even afford to Lightning Bolt the Baral here, which is pretty nice. So Baral down, Mutagenic Growth, Kiln Fiend, paying 2 life, and then Boros Charm double strike for the win. Make sure to click double strike. And that's 24 damage. And our opponent scoops it up. Alright, so we're up against Storm. I think we want a Rest in Pieces for this matchup. And do we want anything else? Could make a case for Path to Exile, just to have more interaction for their mana creatures, which definitely makes sense. So I don't mind bringing in Path. And what do we take out? I guess our opponent could be bringing in Lightning Bolts, so something like a Thud and Assault Strobe might be a little weaker. And I guess a Ball Lightning can also go, since I expect our opponent to bring in Lightning Bolts to answer our Kiln Fiends. Alright, let's try this. And this hand looks very solid. We've got a nice little curve. Harbinger into Kiln Fiend, into maybe get a Nova Chaser in the meantime, into Soulstoke with Lightning Bolt as interaction. Alright, another Soulstoke. Think we still get the Nova Chaser here. Say go. And then we have redundant Soulstokes. So the tricky thing this game is going to be whether or not we keep up Lightning Bolt or we curve out. Alright, if our opponent plays Electromancer, we'll definitely take the opportunity to bolt it, as opposed to play Kiln Fiend, which doesn't look great in this hand anyway. So let's bolt Electromancer. Attack for 1. And then next turn we're pretty locked into playing Soulstoke. Alright, opponent says go. So they might be keeping up their own interaction, whether that's a Remand or a Lightning Bolt. And we pick up our own bolt. So we could be conservative and go Kiln Fiend, keep a bolt. But I think we want to play the Soulstoke here. Play it pre-combat in case it resolves and we get to pump the Harbinger. Alright, get in for 2, see what happens. And we could die next turn, that's the risk we took by tapping out. But hopefully we don't. Opponent down to 15. And I mean, we could almost be killing our opponent next turn, as we see Baral, but no land to go with it. Alright, don't mind our spots one bit here. And a Ball Lightning as well, so we can bolt Baral, put in Nova Chaser championing the Harbinger, or we could just champion the Soulstoke, but I guess that adds up to the same amount of damage, so let's put in Nova Chaser, champion the Harbinger, and attack. See if our opponent blocks or not. If they don't, so our opponent's down to 4. I think we still played safe and bolt the Baral. And then next turn we can kill our opponent in a variety of ways. As we get our Harbinger back, and we could get another Nova Chaser. I guess that's okay, since if they do kill the Soulstoke, then we just have a Ball Lightning to finish them off anyway. So let's get another Nova Chaser, say go, and hope we don't die. Opponent missed their 3rd land drop, so seems like it's gonna be difficult. Opponent says go, and now we can just play a Ball Lightning and attack with everyone, as opposed to putting in the Nova Chaser, since that could be weak to a Lightning Bolt from the opponent. And alright, we managed to beat Storm in 2 quick games. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play, and this hand seems okay, so I'll keep. And then the Harbinger can search up a Nova Chaser if we wanted to. And I don't hate that. Turn 2 Boros Charm, turn 3 Ball Lightning, turn 4 Nova Chaser. Could also go for a Kiln Fiend, play turn 2 Kiln Fiend. That might actually be better since it curves out a little bit nicer. So sure, let's search up a Kiln Fiend. And then we have turn 2 Kiln Fiend, turn 3 Ball Lightning, turn 4 Boros Charm, hopefully pick up another instant or sorcery. Opponent's gonna turn 1 Bird. Let's attack. and then play Kiln Fiend. Alright, Hedron Crab. Is their opponent on some sort of mill deck? Let's see if they target us or themselves. They're targeting themselves, so they're trying to fuel their graveyard. Don't know what for yet. Alright, Satyr Wayfinder, so we'll quickly get to find out here. And alright, there's a new addition from M19. Another Wayfinder, another Grizzly Salvage, so we don't quite know what their payoff is yet. So here I think we just want to Ball Lightning, since we could wait until we have 5 mana for Ball Lightning Double Strike, but I think that's a bit too far down the line, that we just want to get the damage in while we can. And I think I'm fine attacking with everyone here. Opponents can trade for the Harbinger with the Wayfinder, that's fine. That's a little worse if we draw a Nova Chaser or a Soulstoke, since the Soulstoke would give the Harbinger +1/+1. But we did get to push through 1 additional point of damage. And alright, opponent's got double Hedron Crab with a fetch land, so now we'll get to see a lot of cards going to the opponent's graveyard, and we'll find out what the opponent's win condition is. Alright, we see Vengevine, we see more graveyard related cards, and yep, they get to play a creature, so 2 Vengevines return to the battlefield. Alright, so Vengevine seems to be their go-to payoff for doing all this setup. And yeah, Vengevine's gonna kill us pretty quickly here. We're in a bit of trouble. I think we wanna just use a Boros Charm in the opponent's turn, since otherwise I think our opponent would happily just block with this and maybe regenerate it. Can't really attack with our Kiln Fiend, but we can maybe trade it off for a Vengevine while dealing 4 to the opponent, and then hoping to top deck a couple of burn spells in a row, but it's gonna be tough. At least we know that Rest in Peace is gonna be pretty useful in this matchup. Path to Exile also seems like a good addition. Exiling a Vengevine seems good. And yeah, Hedron Crab plus fetch lands is quite a combo. We see a Claim to Fame as well. Scab Ruinator, that's also a nice payoff for milling themselves. And our opponent killed our Kiln Fiend with Growing Filth, and now is discarding 2 Vengevines that they still had in hand. Play Gravecrawler, play another Gravecrawler, get back 2 Vengevines, and our opponent's going off here. And yeah, we should be dead. Alright, so our opponent had pretty much the nut draw with double Hedron Crab. Getting all 4 Vengevines in play by turn 4, that's impressive. Alright, I'm not gonna show them the Boros Charm. Let's go to sideboarding, where definitely want our Rest in Pieces. And I think we want Path to Exile. Timely could be decent as well, but that's about it. So maybe Timely. And what do we take out? I guess Kiln Fiend looks a little bit bad if our opponent has that many chum blockers, since Kiln Fiend doesn't have Trample naturally. So I could see shaving 2 Kiln Fiends. Maybe take out a Mutagenic Growth, maybe shave an Assault Strobe, and then maybe we don't need a Timely, we'll just go with Rest in Peace and Path. Alright, let's try this setup. I would like to be on the play. And yeah, I think we just keep a hand with Rest in Peace in it. It's definitely weak to an opposing Abrupt Decay, but so be it. And I guess our opponent could also have a Hand Disruption spell here on turn 1, but we didn't see any go to the graveyard, so let's see what our opponent's sideboard plan entails. I guess the upside of Vengevine is that you can just play it for 4 mana as a 4/3 with haste, which is still fine. So they're not as weak to graveyard hate as some other graveyard decks. Alright, let's play the Rest in Peace while we still can. It's not doing a whole lot this turn, but I don't want to risk our opponent going Hedron Crab into fetch land and then getting back a bunch of Vengevines right away. Alright, there's a lot less troll. And no second land. Okay. And there's a Harbinger. Can just Ball Lightning our opponent for 6 damage. Or we can play Soulstoke, next turn play Ball Lightning and Harbinger, and search up Nova Chaser. I think I like that more, since we get in for an extra point with the Ball Lightning. Alright, Steam Vents makes an appearance. It's gonna be tapped. And the troll gets in for 2. Opponent can regenerate it, so we're definitely not gonna block. Opponent might discard some cards here just to grow the troll as well. Yep, Vengevine exiled. Another Vengevine exiled. Gravecrawler. Opponent getting rid of their entire hand here. Wayfinder's gone. And alright, opponent's just going all in on this troll. But they are empty-handed, and I think we can still outrace this troll. It's gonna be close. Alright, so don't want to take any unnecessary damage from our lands. So I think we Ball Lightning, Harbinger, and then we can attack with the Soulstoke as well. I guess we don't have to play the Harbinger pre-combat. So play a Ball Lightning. Attack. Hit them for 9. And then next turn Nova Chaser is gonna deal quite a lot of damage. Alright. Opponent's down to 10. Play Harbinger. Search up Nova Chaser, which I think beats our other options. And say go. Alright, let's see if our opponent finds a way out of this. Boruto Delta. Troll attacks, we'll take it. Down to 5. And yeah, we're just gonna go for it here. Let's put Nova Chaser into play. Champion the Harbinger. And attack for 11. Alright, sweet, we got there. So the Rest in Peace did a lot of work. Opponent went all in on the troll, but we were able to get there before they did. And yeah, Path to Exile also makes that plan a lot better, since then we have a clean answer to a giant troll. So yeah, let's just try again and hope to have another Rest in Peace in our opener. Alright, no Rest in Peace, but we do have Harbinger and double Helix, which is pretty solid. A bit land heavy, perhaps. So do we want to mulligan just to have a shot at having Rest in Peace in our opener, or do we keep this? So with the Harbinger we can search up Kiln Fiend, or we can go for Nova Chaser, but that might be a little too slow. Think we mulligan just to have a shot at another Rest in Peace. Alright, did not get there, but this hand is solid. I'm definitely going to keep Soulstoke plus Nova Chaser. And then bottom the Vantage. There's the Supplier. And mills 3 creatures including Vengevine, so that was a pretty nice mill for the opponent. Let's play Arid Mesa, say go. So yeah, this game we might be a little too slow. We do have Soulstoke, put in Nova Chaser, Boros Charm, Double Strike as a play for turn 4, but we might be dead to all these Vengevines before then. Alright, there's a Claim to Fame. Supplier gets in for a cheeky point. Let's get our Sacred Foundry. Alright, Lightning Helix is not bad. Say go. And yeah, definitely want to keep Boros Charm to maybe combo with the Nova Chaser. Hope the opponent doesn't have a Drown in Filth to kill the Soulstoke. Alright, opponent gets in for 2. Plays untapped Breeding Pool into Eldritch Evolution, sacrificing the Supplier. So what could they get here? Something for 3 mana. Do we want to Lightning Helix them in response, or do we wait and see? Think we wait and see. Opponent puts Gravecrawler in the graveyard as well, and gets a Scab Ruinator, fair enough. So I think we just Helix their face. This is also a zombie, and they have a Gravecrawler in the graveyard, so they might be getting back a Vengevine next turn. Not much we can do about that. I think we just Helix them. Untap. Alright, Ball Lightning is interesting, but it doesn't seem great in the face of the Ruinator, so I'll just play the Soulstoke, hope it survives, and hope our opponent doesn't leave back any blockers for the Nova Chaser. Could definitely get a sneaky win here if our opponent isn't careful. So I hope the Soulstoke survives, and their opponent just spends their turn getting back a bunch of creatures from the graveyard. Alright, Stitcher Supplier, that's fine. Finds Hedron Crab and another Claim to Fame. Opponent plays Gravecrawler, gets back Vengevine. Just a 1 Vengevine though, so that's reasonable. And they don't have any black mana up, so I'm not sure what they can have to interact with our Chaser next turn, so we'll take the damage. Down to 10, and our opponent says go. Yeah, I think we just have to go for it here. Hope for the best. Put in Nova Chaser, champion, get rid of our Soulstoke, attack, and then give it double strike. I guess we could also let damage happen and then just deal 4 to them. I guess our opponent could gain life at instant speed somehow, so we'll just go for maximum damage. Alright, let's see if this works. Opponent down to 4, and opponent down to -6. Alright, awesome, we got there. So Boros Charm, double strike, gets the job done. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw with a pretty solid hand. Hopefully the Kiln Fiend survives, since we do have quite a few instants and sorceries to go with him. Alright, turn 1 Shafat Dunes, so some sort of a white go wide deck. Yeah, I don't mind playing the Arid Mesa, and then we can fetch up a Sacred Foundry tapped end of turn unless we need to Lightning Bolt, in which case we can also just fetch up a mountain. Alright, Tectonic Edge into Leonin Arbiter. Alright, so we want to respond by fetching a mountain, I think. I guess we could get Sacred Foundry, since if they do somehow deal with Clifftop Retreat, we want to be able to still have white mana for Helix. And I'm definitely fine just Lightning Bolting the Arbiter here, since that's a scary card. So we're up against some sort of Hate Bears deck. So I'll play the Clifftop Retreat here. Opponent could be playing the 3 mana Thalia, in which case we want to run out the non-basics first. And we'll play Kiln Fiend, and then hope to be able to connect with these Ball Lightnings. Alright, opponent's got a Core Skyfisher, which doesn't seem amazing here since they have to return one of their lands. I guess they haven't played a land yet for the turn, so that's fine. And they replay Shafat Dunes into Thraben Inspector. Alright. A Lightning Bolt, that's a nice one. So we do have the option of just bolting both the opponent's creatures and getting in for 7 with the Kiln Fiend. It's definitely tempting. The other option is just to play Ball Lightning and just attack with a Ball Lightning this turn, which also seems fine. Then if we do pick up land 4, we could go second Ball Lightning, and if they don't block it, Thud. I think I like playing the Ball Lightning here, and then keeping the removal spells to maybe answer something like a Thalia, which would be annoying, since the first striking creature being able to block Ball Lightning is of course not where we want to be. So I'll just attack with the Ball Lightning here, and I'm fine if our opponent wants to block to prevent some damage. Alright, Thraben Inspector is going to absorb 2. Opponent takes 4 down to 13. And now the path is a little more clear for future Ball Lightnings or Kiln Fiend. Alright, Flagstones of Trocaire. Skyfisher gets in for 2. So we might see a blocker for the Kiln Fiend or a removal spell. And it's going to be 3 mana for a nice addition from M19 here. Looks like they found a second copy. Alright, so not bad. Let's untap. And another Ball Lightning. Alright, so feels like this is a good turn to Lightning Bolt their creature, and then also Lightning Helix, and just go face. And then we don't need much to close out the game here, since the opponent will be at 3 life. So if we find 4th land, we can just play Ball Lightning and Thud without having to attack with it. They've got Horizon Canopy, not sure if they have any green spells in their deck, or could just be as a value land to draw an extra card. But the damage from Shafat Dunes this game definitely mattered. If our opponent had 2 more life, then things would not look as great. Alright, opponent says go with 4 mana. They could have something like a Restoration Angel here. I don't mind playing Ball Lightning and Thud here, so let's fetch for a mountain, play Ball Lightning, and then target our opponents, sacrificing Ball Lightning, and deal 6 to our opponent. Alright, sweet. So got to feature some of the new cards from M19, which is nice. So against a white, kind of Death and Taxes style deck, how do we want to sideboard? I guess Sulfur Elemental could be good, although they don't have a ton of 1 toughness creatures except for Thalia, and maybe Flicker Wisp, so it could actually help the opponent in a way. So I don't know if we want Sulfur Elemental in this matchup. Yeah, I kind of like our main deck configuration. Don't really see anything that's terrible. Could make an argument for Path to Exile, just to be able to have more answers to Athalia. I guess Nova Chaser could be bad in the face of Athalia, so maybe we just want to cut one Nova Chaser and make room for one Path. But again, I don't want to overboard, and I don't think we necessarily need anything, so let's try this. And of course, Path to Exile is also nice when the opponent has a Leonin Arbiter in place, since then they won't get to search. Alright, this hand seems acceptable. Do need to find some more creatures perhaps. I think we want to lead with Arid Mesa to get it out before potential Arbiter hits the table, and then we can fetch a Sacred Foundry tapped. Alright, turn to Thalia, that's what I was afraid of. So that's going to be an issue, since not only does it block our Ball Lightnings quite well, it also makes all our instants and sorceries more expensive. Alright, and at least we get to play a Generator Servant here. And then hope our opponent attacks with Athalia, so we can play Soulstoke and attack for 3. Athalia's going to stay on defense since their opponent knows about the Ball Lightnings now. And there's a Ball Lightning. Alright, so opponent's got 3 mana up, so we could play the Soulstoke here, and then next turn we can use Soulstoke to put in Ball Lightning, and then Assault Strobe it, but that's still not amazing in the face of Athalia. So it's between playing Soulstoke and using Lightning Helix on Thalia. The problem with Helix on Thalia is if our opponent has a second copy in hand, then we didn't really accomplish much. So I think I like playing the Soulstoke here. And then we'll see next turn if we want to maybe get rid of Thalia or do something else. Might also see a Path to Exile on the Soulstoke. Alright, that's fine. Search up another mountain. So next turn we might Lightning Helix Thalia, Boros Charm our opponent, and then untap Ball Lightning plus Assault Strobe. Alright, Thalia's gonna attack now, that's fine. So we do have the play of Ball Lightning plus Assault Strobe potentially if our opponent taps out. Alright, and there's a Militia again, and it finds Eidolon of Rhetoric, that's fine. Alright, so feels pretty safe to go for the Ball Lightning plus Assault Strobe plays this turn, and I guess we can fetch another basic here. Costs 2 mana to play Assault Strobe, but that's still a good deal here. So that's 12 damage, opponent can prevent 3 damage. They're just gonna take it all on the chin. So our opponent's down to 8, and we've got 7 points of burn in hand, don't hit our spot. Alright, Fiend Hunter to exile the Servant, that's okay. So it pretty much comes down to whether or not the opponent has some life gain available, and if we top deck the last points of burn. And there's Ether Vial, a bit late. Opponent's definitely got to be careful, but the Militia has Vigilance, so they still have 2 blockers back. Since we could always top deck another Ball Lightning and give it double strike with Boros Charm. Alright, Nova Chaser, but we unfortunately don't have any Elemental to champion. We could Lightning Helix the Fiend Hunter, and then play Nova Chaser, but that's gonna be 1 mana short because of Thalia. So now the question becomes, do we play Sacred Foundry untapped, or do we play it slow? I think we just play Sacred Foundry tapped here, fire off one of our 2 burn spells, and then next turn hope to top deck something, since the 2 damage could definitely shorten the clock from the opponent if we play the Sacred Foundry untapped. Alright, we'll take some damage. I guess we always have the play available of Lightning Helixing the Fiend Hunter end of turn. As we see Eidolon make an appearance. I think we stick to the burn plan here, since if our opponent has a Path to Exile, for example, they get to interact with the Nova Chaser, and I think we're better off just hoping to draw a burn spell. So end of turn, I'll Boros Charm, deal 4 damage to the opponent. Untap. And our opponent's gonna Tectonic Edge our Sacred Foundry, we'll float some white mana, not that it really matters. So we could Lightning Helix right now. I guess we do so in case we top deck another Lightning Helix, otherwise we're locked out of playing it. And we can just use the instant in the opponent's upkeep to play around Eidolon. So our opponent's down to 1. We draw Soulstoke, which now we can't play because of the Eidolon. So that was actually annoying that we were forced to play our Helix in our upkeep. But we are still at 11, so we're not dead the next turn. But next turn we're looking at lethal damage, even with a blocker in play. So we pretty much have to draw a burn spell here, I think. I guess a Ball Lightning could do it if they don't have any interaction, but that seems unlikely. And a Ghost Quarter. Alright, let's untap. And we find Assault Strobe, which is not gonna do it here. So yeah, super close game. The Eidolon definitely mattered, since had we been able to play the Soulstoke last turn, then we could have been able to put the Nova Chaser into play with haste. But looks like the Shafat Dunes, where it hurt the opponent last game, is gonna be the winner this game, since even if we chump block the Militia, we still take 5. Alright, so our opponent is not going for lethal here. We do still have to chump block, but we do get an extra draw step now, since they didn't go for the Shafat Dunes play. Take 4 down to 1, and then we might still have a draw step, which is more than I could have hoped for. Let's untap. And alright, did not get to punish our opponent here. Let's go to game 3. So our opponent did have the turn to Thalia this time, which did make things a little trickier. Maybe Nova Chaser is just a little bit unreliable in this matchup. Bring in an extra path and try this. Don't think we want to bring in any hate for either Vial. If they have it, they have it. If they don't, they don't. And I think Sulfur Elemental would not have been great there. Alright, let's be on the play this time. And yeah, looks like an okay keep. Play a tapped Foundry, Sego. Turn 1 Vial this time. Alright, let's see our opponent's deck operates with a Vial. It's definitely going to be a lot more explosive this time. And a Mutagenic Growth could definitely come in handy. We'll have to say go. Turn 2 Thalia would be annoying here, since we can't Lightning Helix the Thalia. Instead it's a Leonin Arbiter. So we could Helix the Arbiter. Can definitely regret not doing so. Yeah, I don't think we want to mess around. Alright, so found a Harbinger. So I think here we just played the Soulstoke, and then next turn we can use the Soulstoke and play the Harbinger. And the Harbinger might be able to search up a Nova Chaser, which would be pretty exciting. I guess I should have played a Clifftop Retreat there to play around Big Thalia. Instead it's Eidolon. Or Soulstoke also plays around Eidolon pretty well. Let's play the Clifftop now. So yeah, we can use the Soulstoke to put in Ball Lightning. Opponent might jump with the Eidolon. Hopefully they don't have a Thalia. If they do, I guess we have Mutagenic Growth. So I think that's the plan. Put in Ball Lightning. Attack. Alright, opponent does have something with either Vial. And it's a Selfless Spirits, sure. Opponent blocks. And our opponent stacks the Spirits to keep their Eidolon in play. That's okay. So they still take 3. And if we had a Thud, we could have still dealt 7 more damage to our opponent here, but we don't. Instead we have a Harbinger, which is going to search up Nova Chaser. I think that's our best option here. Could get more Ball Lightnings. Yeah, I think we go for Nova Chaser here. Say go, and then hope the opponent doesn't make us shuffle our library. And then we can champion the Flamekin Harbinger, which will be able to give us an additional Nova Chaser essentially. So opponent trying to take us off 4 mana, but we have the Mountain in hand. Interesting, they could have used both Tectonic Edges if they wanted to, but it looks like they want to keep up some mana. Since if you use both Tectonic Edges at once, when your opponent has 4 lands, you can take out 2 lands. And there's the Militia, which finds a Windborn Muse. That's a pretty annoying one. Either way, we're just going to use a Soulstoke here, I think, to put in the Nova Chaser. Even if they had used a second Tectonic Edge, we would still have 2 mana for the Soulstoke, which I think is better here for the Nova Chaser. So let's put in Nova Chaser, and hope they don't have a path to exile, I suppose. Champion the Harbinger, attack. So we could be regretting only having 2 Nova Chasers in our deck, since this is a pretty nice loop to keep going. And I don't think we want to use the Mutagenic Growth quite yet, but it's definitely something we could consider just to push through some extra damage. But into 2 open mana, that's a little sketchy. So I think we just let damage happen. Opponent's down to 6. And then I don't really see a reason to play our land here. Soulstoke happens. Sacrifice Nova Chaser. Harbinger comes back. And we get to search up a second Nova Chaser. Alright. And if our opponent does deal with the Soulstoke, then we just play land 4 and play Nova Chaser. And idle on attacking is a little sketchy, means they might have a way to remove the Soulstoke at instant speed. So I'm just going to take the 1 extra damage here, I think. Even though we could block and then Mutagenic Growth. There's a Ghost Quarter, which we can decide not to search, since it's a May ability unlike Field of Ruin. Alright, so there's Nova Chaser. And again, I think we want to champion the Harbinger just to give us more options for next turn, should things not work out. Alright, opponent's got a Vial, activation for 4, putting in the Muse. Oh, I think I messed up here. Yeah, I should have used the 2 non-basic lands to pay for the Soulstoke's ability to put Nova Chaser into play. That way, if our opponent puts the Muse into play with the Ether Vial, we can just still play the Mountain to pay the 2 mana for the Muse's ability, since otherwise our opponent can, before we move to combat, use the Tectonic Edge on our non-basic land, and that way would not be able to pay the 2 mana for the Muse. So, needed to be a little sneaky there. Since if our opponent Tectonic Edges before we get to attack with the Nova Chaser, then we would not have been able to pay for the Muse. And we got the GGs from our opponents. Opponent's got 6 toughness in front of our Nova Chaser. So they could technically survive, but we've got the Mutagenic Growth here to finish them off. Alright, I want to thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this gameplay, and as always, have a nice day. I also want to thank all my patrons for supporting the channel, and you can do so yourself as well over at patreon.com/LegenVD, where you get cool rewards for supporting the channel, as well as getting us closer to our goals, where with every goal reached, we will release an additional weekly series. So if you want to see more content, Patreon is the place to go.